Part 4 Ending of the Convenience. Check out the other parts, and let's see how OP did. Still no custody papers in the mail yet. What is going on? I got to call my attorney and see what's up with that. My new place has a garage, so I can park inside and she can't see my car, unless she sees me coming or going. It's going to come out sooner or later. I'd prefer she find out in the custody conference when she thinks I don't even have a place for the girls to stay. And then I announce I have the perfect place, right in the same school district. $500,000 from our house and show some nice pictures of it to the judge. I called my attorney today to ask about the custody papers. The courthouse took a week to process them and set up the conference. It's October 21st at 1 p.m. So minimum 3 more weeks in the same house with her. I hope we reach an agreement that day so I can move out and start moving on with my life. STBX had to go into work early today. Some kind of emergency preparedness drill at the hospital. So, I'm working from home and getting the girls off to school. Last week my credit card company called me with a concern. Some kind of breach in security, so they closed my old account and opened a new one. They sent me a new card in the mail. I haven't received it yet, so I'm wondering where the heck is it. Last night I went to get something out of the minivan and there sticking out from under her jacket is a plain white envelope. So of course, I look, it's my new credit card, and it's opened. I just put it back for now. I wonder if she'll even give it to me now that she's illegally opened my personal mail. Well, guess I can't say too much because I open her credit card bill when it comes. Not to snoop, but because I pay all the bills and need to make the payment for her. She stops at the post office twice a day. I stop at lunchtime myself. So, she must have picked it up in one of her frequent stops. I'll give it a day or so and then maybe make a general inquiry if she's seen any letters for me lately. I'm sure she thought it was something legal or of importance to have opened it. There were no markings on the outside, so she knew it was not a utility bill or anything typical. What a pain, going over to her work, take the envelope out of the van and say nothing. Heck, I could even leave the doors unlocked to make her think she forgot to lock them. Really mess with her mind. She has abandonment and security issues from childhood. She was never abandoned physically. I think it stems from the emotional abandonment by her mom, who never supported her or protected her from her dad's abuse. Just a guess. Anyway, after we first got married, when I would come home from short business trips, couple days, she would go through my wallet and briefcase. I caught her a few times and asked what she's looking for. She just said she's checking. I told her go ahead and check. I haven't done anything and there's nothing to hide. She only did that for a few years and I think she stopped after a while. So, her doing this recently doesn't surprise me at all. She's trying to keep tabs on what I'm doing because I don't tell her anything about where I'm going when I leave the house some nights or who I'm talking to on my cell at night. Usually my parents. I'm sure my activities look very suspicious to her. I removed my card from her lunch pouch last night. She hasn't noticed yet. She did pick up the custody complaint from our PO box yesterday, so she's been served. When I came home, right after she had gotten home, she gave me the most evil, piercing stare I think I've ever seen. Kind of scary. Today we took the girls to church for a sexuality seminar that is Christian-based. It was a good program. Nothing too explicit, just basics of where babies come from, how they grow in the womb, about the beginning of adolescence and body changes and the role God plays in all of this. Part of the program was very emotional for me because they talked about God, marriage, sex only when a husband and wife love each other and want to have children, the morality of sex within marriage, and so on. You get the picture. I thought I was going to lose it a few times as we looked at the slideshow and read all about this stuff, and all I could think of was how my W had betrayed her religion, herself, her husband, and her family. I thought I saw her holding back some tears a few times. Sometimes I wish a lightning bolt from God would come down and strike some sense and rational thought into her. All the reasons why what she is doing is a sin and immoral were right there in front of her on the screen in black and white print. So sad Wayward cannot comprehend this. STBX came down to the family room where I was on the computer. She sat down and I could see she was upset. We started talking about our relationship, past issues and such. The conversation went round in circles like it always does, rehashing the same old faults and mistakes we both made. Eventually she brings up custody and asks a question in such a way that made me think she had already picked up the custody complaint from our PO box. Turns out she hadn't picked them up yet. She asked if I had filed. I told her yes, that she gave me no choice. She was being unreasonable and stonewalling me, and I'm not going to sit around here waiting on her. I have a new life to start. She became very upset. She asked what type, partial or full custody. I told her full custody, at which point she freaked out, yelling at me, telling me to get out of the house. You can't stay here, etc. She tried to blame me, saying I was doing this to our children, I was the one hurting them. I stayed cool, calm, and collected the whole time. I responded sensibly and matter of fact to her questions and corrected her when she tried to blame me and tell me I'm doing stuff to my children. The discussion continued with her becoming very emotional and distraught to the point she needed to leave and go back upstairs. She went up to our bedroom and cried. Our girls noticed this and started to become upset too. So, I told the girls to come into the living room so we could talk and I would answer any questions they have. STBXW hears me talking to them and storms out of the bedroom. She's in a really bad mood and blurts out, "Daddy is going to take you girls away from me." Both girls react with distress. I jump up from the couch and go to her, telling her to stop in a hushed tone, stop telling lies and scaring them. I whisper loudly. The girls hover around us. She keeps on, "Yeah, Daddy thinks I'm a terrible mom and wants to take you away," she says. I step in between her and the girls, look her directly in the eye and tell her she needs to stop right now and get control of herself. She does manage to rein in her emotions a bit and sits down on the couch. I go into the bedroom to think about what to do next now that she's trying to alienate them from me. I hear them talking in the living room. The girls are upset. My one daughter, the mommy's girl, comes in to tell me off. She tells me that I shouldn't tell mommy things like that to upset her. I tell her that she doesn't fully understand the situation and doesn't have all the facts. I tell her that I didn't say that to mommy at all and she misunderstands what is going on. We all gather back in the living room to talk. STBXW blurts out again, "Why not tell them the truth? Tell them you filed for divorce." This really scares the girls. They ask me if I want a divorce, to which I respond no. They ask me if I wished we would get a divorce, to which I respond no. I tell them I don't want nor to wish for a divorce, but sometimes we must do things we don't want to do so that life can be better afterwards. I asked them if they like doing homework or practicing guitar. They said no, not always. I said divorce is like that too. Sometimes we don't really want it, but in the end doing it will be better for all of us. Both girls state adamantly, "You cannot get divorced. We are supposed to be together as a family." My other daughter, Daddy's girl, declares, "You two are not getting divorced," as if just by saying it she can stop it. Mommy says it won't happen for a long while. I agree and tell the girls that it takes a while. It's a long process. One daughter has had enough and leaves the room, goes to her bedroom. The other one is upset and doesn't know what to do with herself. She goes into the kitchen for one of her toys. As the girls are getting ready for bed, they start to argue. So, I go into the one daughter's room to see what the problem is, and they are fighting about what clothes to wear to school tomorrow. I break them up and tell mommy's girl to go to bed. She becomes defiant, stands her ground and back talks to me with a smart mouth. Something about what she thinks I said to mommy about custody and how I shouldn't do that. I told her she was out of line and to go to her room. She goes to mommy because she typically protects her from punishments and lets her off easier. I follow behind her as she approaches mommy, take her by the shoulders and turn her around toward her room, telling her, "I told you to go to your room for punishment." Mommy freaks out, yells at me to take my hands off her as if I'm hurting her, which I'm not. I'm just redirecting her to her bedroom. I walk her over to her room as mommy rushes up behind me, telling me to leave her alone. Get away from her. I sit daughter on her bed and tell her in a stern voice that her comment was unacceptable and disrespectful, and I expect her not to disrespect me like that again. By now mommy has pushed her way past me and is sitting on the bed holding daughter. I'm done with my reprimand, so I simply leave the room. Eventually we get them into bed. I lay with them for a few minutes each. They don't want to talk. Instead, they want to read me a story. So, I let them. STBX gets a quick shower while I'm laying with them. After she gets out, I go to watch some TV after all this turmoil. STBX gets the girls up, takes them into our bedroom and locks the door. They sleep with her overnight. I'm locked out. I don't say anything or do anything. I just accept that they need that time together and I sleep in my daughter's bed. An hour later, after the girls fall asleep, and I'm almost asleep, STBX comes over, flips on the lights and sits on the bed. She tries every which way to persuade me I need to stay and not separate. She says I need to call off the custody hearing. I need to do this for the girls. She asks why I would do this to our children. It's going to scar them for life. I need to think about them. I'm being vindictive and many other character assassinations. The whole time I listen, respond with fact when necessary, and stay calm. I show no emotion or anger. I tell her I give her many chances all the time and she doesn't accept them. I gave her 3 years to come back into the marriage. She chose to betray her family instead. I tell her I tried to talk with her for weeks about custody and she hardened her position. Moms get the kids in the house, dads get weekends. She left me no choice but to proceed with filing. She tells me I'll never get full custody because she's a good mom. She interrogates me about what my evidence against her is, what I'm planning. I tell her nothing. She says I want this to get nasty. She says I'm going to expose all her faults for the world to see. I don't respond or give in to her emotional terrorism. Eventually she sees that I won't succumb to her tactics and leaves. What a night. Our girls are still young. They will be 10 in Jan. I'm not so sure telling them that mommy has a boyfriend and she chose him over us is the right thing to do at their age. If they were older, like 12, I would be more inclined to discuss details. I don't know on this one. I'll have to think about it. I know she's going to demonize me and try to turn them against me. But I don't want to join in that type of behavior even if what I tell them is true. A 10-year-old shouldn't have to deal with the images of mom with another man on top of our coming separation, divorce, and custody situation. Like I said, I'll need to think about this a lot more. During our discussions I mentioned that she was just with him last week. She says, "Oh, is that so? How do you know? Where's your proof? Are you tracking me? Did you hire a pie?" All I said back to her was, "I know what you did and I have all I need to support my custody case." Now she's really freaking out about that. She doesn't know what I have or don't have. I thought about go to a PI, video and audio of their encounter, but decided against it. I don't want to blather about stuff I don't have or cannot back up. Get this, she says nothing is going on with them anymore. She only saw him to break it off. He's not interested in a relationship, therefore she has nobody. Are you kidding me? Same old crap she's told me many times before when I busted her. Last night I was hoping for some disclosure or explanation from her. During her drive back from her mom's, she called me and we talked mainly about this week and the girls' schedules. But every so often she would throw in a comment about how good it was for her to be away this weekend and have time to think about everything that's going on. She asked me if I liked being alone this weekend. I said it was okay, but I missed our daughters not being around. Later in the evening I was watching the news in our bedroom when she came in and laid down on the bed. She started talking about things but not in any coherent train of thought. She was jumping all over the place and at one point I said to her, "Spit it out. I can't read your mind." She hemmed and hawed before finally saying she wants me to delay any further custody pursuits until after Christmas. She feels the court hearing and all will be too stressful on the girls during the upcoming holidays. I told her no, I would not delay. I've already waited years and been used by her the whole time. I told her I'm not waiting any longer. I told her custody doesn't have to drag out till December. That we could settle it right now if she were reasonable about the whole situation. The conversation pretty much stopped at that point. I got up and left the room to go get bedtime snacks for the girls. At bedtime she laid awake for 2 hours. I had trouble falling asleep too, but she didn't say anything else to me. This morning as I'm getting dressed, she rolls over in bed and starts talking to me. She asks me if this is really what I want. I asked if she meant separation. She said yes. I told her it was never what I wanted. I never wanted a divorce, but her behaviors and actions left me no choice. Unfortunately, the path I'm going down is necessary, not desired. She asked me if there was any remote chance we could come out of this together. I told her as of today, I don't see that happening. I told her I think separation is the way to proceed at this time. I reminded her that in June I gave her the 5 major requirements for reconciliation and she didn't attempt a single one. I told her that if I were in her shoes, I would be jumping through hoops right now to save us just like I did 3 years ago. To recover and prove myself. She has done nothing. I left the bedroom to leave for work. I wanted to say something about custody, a last-ditch proposal, but for some reason couldn't bring myself to speak out. I asked her if she would consider shared custody starting in January. 1 week with each of us, rotating. That way, I tell her, the girls would be home through the holidays like she wants and there could be a delayed transition like she wants. She asks if I would be moving out. I tell her yes, if we have an agreement. She says she was hoping I would just stay here during that time. I tell her that is not a good idea and we should start the transition. I tell her maybe they stay with me a couple weekends and they stay at home during the weekdays for school and for the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. She says too bad I don't have a place to live. Where would they go on these weekends? I tell her the market is good right now and I can find a place easily. Again, she pulls the "I don't know where you'll be" card. I remind her I will stay close, that I won't be going far away. She says, too bad you didn't get that place close by. That would have been ideal. Wow, no kidding. So finally, I tell her please think about my proposal. It meets a lot of her requirements, as best we can in this situation. All weekend she's been digging for information about what evidence and information I have on her, using every trick in her bag, from confrontation to emotional pity to try and get me to reveal details. She wants to know why I think she's a bad mom. What things has she done that make her a bad mother? I kept telling her I don't have an answer for her. She responded, yes, you do. You just won't tell me. To which I replied, that's correct. I will not tell you. Doing so would be foolish. Update. Court-ordered inspection of my new place goes wrong in a very bad way. Friday was the day chosen for STBX to go see my place as requested by the custody judge. After several emails back and forth, she settled on having my landlord present and doing the walkthrough at 6:30 after she gets off work. So, I call my landlord, explain the situation, and he graciously agreed to meet us at my place at 6:30 p.m. Then later in the afternoon, STBX emails again with a change. She doesn't want this to be a circus and drag others into it, so she doesn't need the landlord present. I agree, it's a pretty simple matter for me to let her in, and she walks around, asks questions, and we go. Boy, was I wrong. Every Friday night is pizza night. I'm out of money and she knows it. She got paid Friday, so she has money. I'm expecting her to come home with a pizza for the kids and we go over to see my new place. She calls the house at 6:45 and says sharply, I'm here. Where are you? I'm thinking you never said I was supposed to meet you. And obviously there's no supper and I didn't take anything out or prepare anything. She set me up. So, I grab my keys, get my jacket, frantically telling the babysitter to get this and that out to feed our girl something. I race over to my place where she's waiting in her car. I unlock the front door and walk in to turn on some lights. She follows me inside and pushes the front door to close it, but it stays ajar. I have to walk into the kitchen to turn on more lights as she's looking over the living room. I walk back to the door and open it so you can see through the screen door. I'm edgy and don't know what she might pull. She walks through the foyer and into the dining kitchen area, looking at all the appliances and furniture I've been collecting. The place is 90% furnished now, and it starts. She turns to me and says, "You son of a b, you've been doing all this behind my back and you complain about me keeping secrets. Well, this is all going to come out in court, so what?" Her temp is rising. I'm standing by the front door ready to make an exit if necessary. She walks into the kitchen, looks around and sees photos I put up on the frig of my mom's birthday showing me, Mom and Dad, and the girls, and flips out. She grabs the pics off the frig and throws them, yelling at me, "You have some nerve putting this crap up here." So, I think she's going to start trashing things and walk into the kitchen to confront her. I tell her, "You need to stop right now. You can't come in here to inspect the place and start throwing things around." But she's already lost it and can't think or reason. She gets in my face holding some pics, taunting me, "What are you going to do?" She throws more pics on the floor. At that point I realize this is going to get bad and real fast, so I retreat to the living room and walk out the front door. She follows me out on the porch ranting about this and that. She throws several pics on the ground and stomps on them, then says again, "What are you going to do?" So, wait for it, I called the cops. I take out my cell, call 911, they connect me to the state police and I explain the situation. I request they dispatch to the location. The whole time W is saying loudly in the background, "I want to talk to them, give me the phone. I want to talk." She tries grabbing the phone and I twist and back away each time, trying to keep distance between us. She's enraged now and totally berserk. She comes over to me, grabs me in a bear hug and says, "Kiss me, come on, give a kiss." What the hell? As I pull back and push her arms down, I finally break free from her and walk away up the street to get away until the police come. As I'm walking, I see another man coming out of my landlord's back driveway. He sees me and says hello. I say hi back and ask if his name withheld. He says yes, it's my landlord. I tell him what's going on and he says he'll walk back down with me to wait for the police. We walk back to my place. W is pacing around the driveway. We walk up near her and I say, "This is my wife." He says hi, tries to be cordial, but she's pissed off and starts ranting about the cats and the driveway is not big enough to play in. Saying stuff about me that there is a history of domestic abuse, blah, blah. I think he sees right through it anyway. So, 2 cops show up. I invite them inside. Landlord, W and I are standing there and I give a brief explanation of events. Cop #1 stops me and tells Cop #2 to take W into other room to get her statement. She instantly breaks down crying and wailing. I couldn't make out what she was saying. Cop #1 takes my statement and immediately sympathizes. He's 2 years into his own ugly divorce. He understands the situation I'm in and gives me a few pointers. I tell him I have to stay in marital home because we don't have court order yet. He tells me if anything happens between us at the marital home to call, and this incident here will be applied toward her as well. He asks if I want to file harassment charges. I say no, not at this time. W and Cop #2 come out of bedroom. She's sobbing heavily. Cop #1 starts to review what transpired with her. She jumps into my account saying the pictures were accidentally knocked down. Cop #1 tells her in a raised, firm voice he doesn't care how they fell. He knows what went down here tonight. Typical spousal argument. He tells her luckily her husband chose not to engage her and called police instead. He warns her sternly that if anything happens and he gets called to the marital home tonight, charges will be filed including what happened here. W is stunned and becomes completely docile. She says she's ready to leave and there won't be any more trouble. W goes outside, gets in her van and leaves. I lock up and leave also but don't go home. And just driving around. W calls and tells me I have to pay the babysitter and take her home. Then she hangs up before I can respond. 2 minutes later she calls again asking me where I'm at. She and daughter #2 want to go out for dinner. Since I didn't make anything, and I need to come home to watch daughter #1, I say okay, be there in 5 minutes. I come home, walk in the house as she and daughter are walking out. So, I'm expecting her to stay out for a good while, but she only gets Chinese takeout and is back home in 40 minutes. She sits on the bed, crying and sobbing uncontrollably. Eventually, when she can catch her breath, she apologizes to me. She tells me she's sorry for hurting me so badly. She doesn't want to lose her family, her children, her life. She wants me to stay. She wants to try to save our marriage. She wants to start very slow, with dinner date or movie. No pressure, just take it slowly. She tells me she wants to fall in love with me again like she felt before everything went to hell. Before I drank, before I neglected her and pushed her away emotionally. I tell her she's wasting her time trying. It takes 2 to work on a marriage and I'm out. I tell her I need some space. I still want to separate and we need to figure out the custody issue. She says she understands why I would feel that way. Does she? I don't think she knows the depth of damage done to me, but she still wants to fight for us. Then she says, I have something to tell you. First thing was she's been off her anti-anxiety meds for 1 to 2 weeks. She only has a few left. Not good. She needs the medication. She went off them for 2 weeks a couple years ago and it was 2 WKS of hell. When asked why, she says it was because she didn't have enough money. The copay is only $40. Come on. I said she needs to prioritize expenses. Meds should come before horse riding lessons. She says, tell your daughter that. Oh boy. I called in and ordered her meds, expedited delivery, and paid for them myself. I handed her the pills and a drink and told her please take these. She tried to decline, saying she's almost out. So, I told her what I did. She's back on them 3 days now and I think it's helping. The second thing is more troubling. She tells me she hasn't had a period in 2 months. Oh my God. She says it's probably stress, and it could be. She is 41 and has been having irregular and sometimes heavy periods the last 2 years. Her doctor says it might be premenopause. I know once in a while she only goes 3 weeks between and then sometimes it goes 5 weeks. No, I did not ask her if she thinks she's pregnant, although the timing is perfect for their last 2 rendezvous. I doubt she would be trying to lure me back into the marriage due to pregnancy for several reasons. We haven't had sex since last week of July, so timing would say it's not mine. And more importantly, I've had a vasectomy 5 years ago. While I can't wrap my mind around this one. What if she's pregnant? My attorney just called me about the incident Friday. He's concerned about her mental stability. I explained the med situation to him. He says okay, but what about the next time she goes without taking them or runs short on money? He suggested we request the court to require a custody evaluation of the parents. A doctor appointed by the court interviews and evaluated the parents. The girls might be involved also. The cost is $5,000, and it could take several months in which I cannot leave the marital home. He thinks with her mental issues and past history of outbursts that I could end up with primary custody. I have my issues too, but I work on them constantly and have erased many bad traits that I had, mainly toward my W, so he feels I present as the more stable parent. If I were to do this, it would take any chance of future R off the table completely. Regarding her efforts at R, he said it appears the reality of her situation is setting in. I agreed and told him I don't know if her efforts are sincere or just out of desperation. He suggested another path to take would be to request a continuance of the custody suit until a future date pending resolution by W and I. In the meantime, I would remain at home and attempt R. I asked why my intentions for custody of my kids is not clear enough that I can move out. He said I can move out but take the kids or have agreement for at least 50% of the time. If I leave without them or with minimal time, it sends the message that I'm okay with my wife and her parenting abilities and mental stability. It actually works better if I stay at home to prove my concern for the kids given W's irrational behaviors and lack of judgment. He suggested we get an interim agreement for 50-50 between counsel pending future action. That won't happen. She just mentally and rationally doesn't get that I have equal rights, access to our girls. While last night was full of excitement and action, it was trick or treat night in our town from 6-8 p.m. I got the girls fed, homework done, and started having them get their costumes on. STBX comes home early from work and does their makeup and hair, and out the door they go. We have a lot of stairs leading up to the front door, so I go down to the bottom to give out candy so the little tykes don't have to climb all the way up. As I'm standing there in the driveway, I keep getting smells of propane or natural gas. There is a slight breeze, so it's intermittent. 10 then 15 minutes go by and the smell is stronger. So now I'm getting worried. My gas grill is right inside the garage door, so between herds of kids I rush inside, into the garage and double check the shutoff valve on the tank. It's tight as hell, no smell in the garage either. I go back outside and walk across my yard to the neighbor's house to ask him if he's smelled anything. As I cross over, the smell of gas hits me strong, heavy enough to make me gasp a little. So, I turn to the side of my house where my gas meter is located and walk over, sniffing as I go. I can smell gas around the meter area, and as I walk right up to it, I hear a hissing sound. I kneel down and put my hands around the pipes and feel a stream of gas coming out. Holy crap. So, I run inside, grab the phone and the gas bill to call in an emergency. The gas co. dispatches a technician. Meanwhile, kids are running all over our development getting candy. It just so happens the local fire department sets up a rescue truck to hand out candy right near our house each year. So, I go over and inform them about the situation and all hell breaks loose. They call in the gas leak. Fire department responds with a tanker truck. They barricade off my street and evacuate the area. My house is lit up like a major league ball field. Fire hoses litter the street ready to put down any fire that might erupt. My wife and kids come around the circle in our development and see all this going on. W comes over and asks me what's going on, so I tell her. She freaks a little, telling me to go get the girls' pets out of the house. I tell her it's okay, the leak is outside, not inside. She says, "Are you sure? What if the girls' bunnies die? They would be devastated." I reassure her they are fine. So, she takes the kids on up into town to trick or treat while I deal with the situation at the house. It takes the gas tech about 30 minutes to arrive. He inspects the leak, then turns off the main valve at the street. Then he takes a meter into the house to check for gas. There is a very small concentration in the garage right next to where the meter is located on the outside wall. So, we manually open the doors to air it out. The house and surrounding area is deemed safe now. The tech does a closer inspection and determines the riser pipe has cracked underground somewhere and needs to be replaced. Now here's the catch. In my county, the property owner is responsible for the gas line between the street valve and the house, and the type of work requires a state-certified plumber, of which there are only a handful in the area. So now I'm looking at a small repair on top of all the other stuff I'm dealing with. D. Custody. Second, household expenses. The gas tech gives me a list of plumbers to contact, so I start making calls and get answering machines. Of course, it's 8 p.m. at night. My dad calls me to see how this situation is going. I called him at the beginning and gives me 2 more names. One is highly recommended, does all my parents' work. So, I call to see if this guy meets the certification requirements to do the work, expecting to get a machine, and his wife answers the phone. I tell her the situation and she get her husband on the line. Nice service. He says he can do the work, and is the gas tech still around? He'd like to ask some questions. I tell him yes and get them on the phone together. Gas tech says, "Hi, is this so-and-so?" Plumber says yes. Gas tech says, "Hey buddy, how's it going?" Turns out they know each other and worked several jobs recently. So, the questions get answered and plumber is scheduled to come this morning and start repairs. From their talk, it appears the damage is less than first expected, and I only need the riser pipe repaired and not the whole gas line replaced. Now, about the STBXW. After the dust settled last night, we're sitting talking about what to do since we have no heat or hot water, and she tells me this is a sign. I ask her what she means. She says, this was a sign we are supposed to be together. To protect each other. Jesus, I guess it could be, but who knows. She says this is a sign from God telling me to get my act together, because I need you and the girls need you. If you weren't here, this could have been really bad. He could have leaked into the house, suffocating us overnight, or built up overnight and ignited by a spark. I tell her even if it was a sign that it fixes nothing between us. She tells me she's ready to work on us. I tell her it's a little too late at this point. I'm moving on emotionally, trying to anyway. Filed for D. Filed for custody. Got my own place, etc. She tells me she's willing to do anything I ask. Total transparency, give up her cell if necessary. Email access. I told her I can't get access to her company email, which concerns me greatly. I told her I think she's just acting out of desperation. She says she can understand why I would think that, but it's not true. She says she's ready to work on us and knows it will be very hard work, but she's ready to put in the effort. I'm going to be completely honest with myself here. I'm becoming very conflicted this last week since she started coming around. Love can be a very powerful. I keep trying to weigh the bad times, her outbursts, her betrayal, the broken trust, and everything else negative from our past against the possibility of what could rise up from the ashes of this marriage. I think of the old saying, what doesn't X you will make you stronger. I don't know. As you can see, I'm struggling recently. I'm trying to keep a clear head about this, but her recent coming out of the fog seems to have rekindled a spark of hope within me that I guess never really died out. I'm not sure what direction I want to go anymore. My heart says, take a chance, try to make it work. My logic says, don't let her fool you again and stomp on your heart. Get away now. If she had come out of the fog like this in May when I confronted her seriously with D, I believe we would be working on our marriage now, assuming she didn't falter or break NC. Man, this is really tough. Update. Under all this financial and emotional pressure, she caves last night. She tells me this cannot go on. She says she will call her lawyer and request the remainder of her retainer fee back and use that to pay down the repair bill. She tells me she won't fight me on custody anymore. She says, you win, you've beat me. I can't afford to fight you through court battles, and you will take it there no matter what. So, I tell her I will work up a proposal and have it sent over to be signed. This discussion happened right after supper. Then at bedtime, we're laying there and she begins to apologize again. She says she can't truly know the depth of the hurt she's caused me because she can't feel what I'm feeling. But she says she can relate to it because she was deeply hurt in the past by me. I agree with that. The things I did and said to her years ago were horrible and abusive and surely inflicted emotional pain similar to what I'm experiencing. She tells me she's so sorry for what she has done to me and wants a chance to repair it if only I will let her. She's trying to persuade me that she is sincere in her efforts to save the marriage. She told me she sent an apology email to our old MC in hopes she would take us back into therapy, and she apologized to my landlord for her misbehavior last week. It appears she is attempting to atone for her recent mistakes and take responsibility for her behaviors. So, what should I do? Strike while the iron is hot. I could wait till she drops her lawyer, then continue with the November 21st custody conf without her or her lawyer and basically get my way because she's absent and without representation. Or I could have a custody agreement written up the way I wanted and have her sign it. If she really would, I don't know. I've been thinking about the timing of all this with the girls and holidays coming up. Even if I got primary custody tomorrow, I don't think I would uproot them immediately anyway. I'm thinking of holding off until January so we get through the holidays with some semblance of normalcy and family togetherness. There's only a month and a half left in this year, and yanking the kids out of their home, splitting up the parents right at this time just doesn't feel right. And there is this little tidbit. The wall I built up around my heart is starting to show tiny cracks. Deep down, I don't want our family or life to fall apart. I never did. But I felt pushed to my limit and was left with no other choice but to file for D. My attorney called me yesterday to see how I was doing and if there were any new developments. I explained to him that she is showing a change of heart and attitude. He said he's seen this lots of times where the filing for D or custody makes the reality of the situation hit home hard and shakes the WW out of their funk. He's seen where in the thick of the D process the WW spouse finally sees the light, understands what they are going to lose, and wants to postpone any proceedings to see if the relationship can be saved. So, I don't know at this point. I think the STBX is really trying the best she knows how on her own. There are things she could be doing that would help, but I haven't told her because I'm not sure of my direction anymore. I don't see any sense in telling her I want this, and this if I'm not committed to attempting R. Update: I've been very busy with the holidays and my girls, and yes, my W2. I had the last 2 weeks off from work and spent a lot of time with the family doing Christmas stuff, shopping, wrapping, decorating, all the family parties and such, and it was a very wonderful time. Imagine that. Our girls had one of, if not the best Christmas ever. Let's see now what has transpired on the R front. W gave me the last of her email account logins for work and Gmail. She went and got tested again for STD and gave me the results 2 days before Christmas. Oh, and we have consummated our recommitment to the marriage several times. After further consideration, she has agreed to write the NC letter. It took her a while to grasp the idea that the letter was more for me and not a message to the OM per se. She didn't see the point in a letter since he has not attempted contacting her for months and she has no plans to ever contact him again. I explained several different ways that her agreement to do it, her writing of the letter by her own hand, her thinking about what to say and executing it was just another way for her to express her recommitment to our marriage. Last night we were lying in bed, snuggling and talking about how nice the holiday was for us, and she firmly grabbed my hand, looked into my eyes and said, "I'm truly sorry for hurting you so badly." I replied, "It's a new year and a fresh start. Let's focus on each other more intently than ever and don't sweat the trivial stuff that may come up." Couple months later, final update. I'm still at home with the W and kids. I asked the realtor to put my rental place back on the market. I did this to try and ease our financial situation as we try to pay for a second household, lawyer fees, credit card debt, and money I borrowed from my parents to get set up on my own. And we've had some unexpected home and auto repairs. It's a bad time of year, middle of winter, to find another renter. So, I'll probably be stuck paying rent until the lease runs out in June. W and I are getting along fine. No arguments or issues. I've checked on her a few times, email and phone records, and nothing appears to be going on. My gut tells me nothing is going on too. She had her first restart of IC yesterday and set up several more appointments. She also signed release forms for the first time in years to allow her therapist to share info with mine. I think that is a positive sign. In the past, she has been completely secretive about what goes on in her sessions. My birthday is this Friday and she has planned a family getaway for 3 days. She won't tell me what it is. She wants it to be a big surprise. All I know is I had to take 2 vacation days and we have to drive wherever we are going. I'm looking forward to it. My only complaint about R is I don't feel connected with her. We seem to be just going through the motions of daily life. I want to feel a closer, intimate connection with her. I'll admit I haven't been trying very hard. I need to do more frequent touching and cuddling. And we definitely need to find more time for bonding. Life is hard with 2 girls, work, homework, music lessons, activities, and household chores. We both usually fall into bed exhausted each night. I have been doing more listening and interacting and conversation with her as I feel this was something I was lacking in before her affair. So, things are moving along, slowly, but at least in the right direction. I forgot to mention we are watching more TV shows together. We used to just go in our separate rooms and watch whatever or even the same show sometimes. I even watch shows that only she likes just so I can snuggle with her on the couch or in bed. My comment: it took OP all this time for R. I hope this is all worth it for him in the end. At least she is getting some professional help, so that's a start. I need to get some stretching done before the next one, which should be in a couple of hours.